I really love that, because often when you think about letting go of things, you've got to shake it out, you've got to force it to come out of you. But actually, there's a process within us that is like very linked to the seasons. When it's time to let go of stuff, as long as we give ourselves space to do that, it happens quite naturally. Yeah?
It's very much the consciousness of the metal element. That consciousness, it's very much associated with the emotion of grief. And what grief does as a process, it enables us to let go of the past through the process of grieving so that we can be fully present.
Hello, welcome into the new episode of When Sarah Met Clara with me, Clara Apollo, and my lovely sister, Sarah Chave. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, lovely to connect with you again, Clara, and to chat about the metal element, which is what we're moving into.
Indeed. So here we are in the Northern Hemisphere. I know all of you that listen over in Australia that you're just about coming into your springtime, but here we're just coming into the time of the autumn, or the fall as it's called as well. And I like that. I like that, being reminded that everything's just falling graciously down. Was that lovely line about trees know how to let go, that they let go of their leaves with grace or something? I really love that, because often when you think about letting go of things, you've got to shake it out, you've got to force it to come out of you. But actually, there's a process within us that is like very linked to the seasons. When it's time to let go of stuff, as long as we give ourselves space to do that, it happens quite naturally. Yeah.
It's very much the consciousness of the metal element. That consciousness, it's very much associated with the emotion of grief. And what grief does as a process, it enables us to let go of the past through the process of grieving so that we can be fully present. So this is the beauty, being present is very much to do with that fire element that we looked at, a couple of podcasts back.
Yeah.
But the thing is in order to be fully present, grief and the metal element needs to be in good balance. This is the beauty of how all these elements play with each other and interrelate.
And we don't really give enough time for grief in our culture. We kind of think it's something we shouldn't be doing. And yet, for me, it's the flip side of love. If you love that much, or you are prepared to engage that much, then there will come a time where part of what you were engaging with will drop away, and there will be a grief for that. And it will be like an exquisite grief. It's because it was so beautiful. But to allow that time and honoring that process within you, to let the tears come, to let yourself honor what had occurred, and to let it go with grace is something to be nurtured, I feel, in our culture.
Yeah, it's important that you brought that up, and in terms of the not making enough space, or even not knowing how to grieve, the whole rituals and understanding of how we grieve, are just not there really in our culture. And when you were talking, what was coming to me is that is almost happening right down to the level of the breath. Our culture is all about fill up, more, breathe in, more, and there's not the out breath. It's like, it's a cycle. We can't just fill up, we would explode. So we need to be able to breathe out and let go. So how do we do that graciously? How do we enable ourselves to go through that process so that ultimately we can find that point of presence, and moving into that heart energy, which is what we're really wanting to do during this time, that journey from the head to the heart.
But in a grounded way. So as you were saying that, I was just bringing it back to the idea of a day. There are some days when they've been so great, so brilliant, for whatever reason. You get to the end of the day and you almost don't want to go to sleep because you don't want the day to end. And it's like the grief around that is like, I'm going to journal it then. I'm gonna like let myself be with this energy and honor it by writing about it, or maybe going into meditation about it, and to own the fact that it's been a brilliant day, an evening or whatever. But in order to be able to have the potential for another one, you need to be able to let yourself let go of all of that, and you still retain the exquisite presence. And this is the piece that I love about the metal element. is that if we talk about the metal being in the earth when it's created under great pressure, like the crystals as well. So for me, I always bring the crystals in with the metal element too, because there's the earth with under pressure, she squashes out all the impurities, and so that all that is left is the highest, most precious energy there. And that, I think, is a really beautiful approach to this time of the year, is to come into just letting go of what isn't absolutely in alignment with your truth, and let it go graciously, maybe grieving it, or just giving it a place that is not going to fetter your energy up, and let yourself be with that exquisite presence of being in the now moment. And I have got a movement I'd love to do towards the end to sort of foster this in all of us. So, and it's linked to the breath, of course, like everything is.
I love how you brought in the how the earth is the mother of the metal element. So it's that refinement process that happens through that nourishment, that enables us to, oh, this is really nourishing for me, I'm going to keep this. Oh, actually this is not pure, I'm going to, for me, I'm going to let this drop away, this is not in alignment. So this idea of being in alignment, I wanted to bring in another visual, because you brought in your beautiful visual of what happens under the earth. The swordsmith also does this. So the swordsmith has the metal and hammers it into a piece, and then folds the metal and hammers it again and folds it. And actually what happens is all the molecules start to line up, and you have that clarity, which is that cutting through, and that ability to, like, and that's what we want to draw towards us, is that clarity of mind. That is the metal element. Exactly. So that's another beautiful vision for working with our metal, because that's what we're trying to do, Clara, very much in this, with this podcast. We're it's like, how can we work with these elements to bring balance with them? How do they relate to each other? How can we move through the seasons? That's what we're hoping to support people with, isn't it?
Yeah, and also how you can be practical with them. So when we think about Archangel Michael and his sword of clarity and focus, and you've just spoken around the metal that makes up that sword, and we have that beautiful movement of the archer, you can't really see here, that where you're shooting through that's part of the 8 brocades, that you're getting absolutely focused. What do you want to be firing off into the future? And we are getting into Sagittarius season soon. I mean, I know we've got Scorpio to go first, but in the Sagittarius season,
let's see when we release this. So yeah, I'm sure when it's going to get out. I just want to make sure we don't give too many dates away.
Sorry about that. But that idea of focus and clarity is one of the things that a lot of people are looking for, because all of us are so distracted by culture, and as you say, we're being filled up.
Yeah.
Where do we let go? Where do we come into presence, power, support, stillness, quiet, and that enables that which is not in alignment with our truth and soul purpose to drop away, and we get more and more honed as we're tapping our sword into more and more alignment. So all the molecules and atoms are really, really on this. And behind the scenes, dear listener and viewer, Sarah and I have been cooking up some things that we're absolutely focusing on for next year. So watch this space.
That's a little preview there, is it?
Yeah, but I just love the way that you and I work with this, and when we're on it, we're really on it, and I think it's our practices that enable us to have that clarity, because I didn't always used to be able to do this, but actually the metal element was the one that challenged me the most when I first started my training. It made me very, very uncomfortable. All that stuff about boundaries and the clarity. What I was going, I could do this and this. I would just have like fingers in many, many pies and love it, and then all my energy would be scattered, and I'd be like, where is my focus? And I suppose the older I've got, and the less I've been able to behave like that, it's honed and honed. And now I'm meeting someone like yourself that is similarly minded as well. Let's focus on actually what our soul purpose is here in this synergistic way that we have as Chi sisters to bring through the next level, because we're all evolving, but and we're involving individuals, but when we're around other aligned and like-hearted, like-minded people, we get to different experiences of whatever level that means. Where are we going next? We go together, and the new earth is all about collaboration, community, common unity. What is it? Holding each other's
And
hands
being
and
different facets of that diamond, seeing as we're talking
yes,
about crystals and metal, we don't
yes.
have to do it all. We can have the clarity to to be able to let go the pieces that the teammate can do.
I know, and that is a
So
big learning. That's a
one of
big
the things I'd
learning.
love to bring in, with this whole letting go piece, one of the things that can get in the road of that, and I think particularly, in our culture where it's really quite, there's lots going on, shall we say, is
Mm,
control. The feeling that we
yeah.
need to control, we need to be in control in order to feel safe, to feel, we so it's that there's this element of surrender, this element of letting go and letting God, like trust, well, trust is kidneys, but this is how they all circle into. I remember last time we were
Yes.
talking about surrender because it was the one
Yeah.
before, because
Yeah.
you start to move into that, as the earth meets the metal. So again, you're moving into that trust, as that's how that's feeding into the kidneys, the water element.
But do you not think that trust and surrender is central to all of the elements?
It's it
Because it's earth.
the thing is you're always going to have, it's the yin and the yang, you're always going to have a little
Yeah.
piece of it,
Yeah.
and that's how they work into each other. I mean, but technically the trust would come in, is known as the kidneys, that's where it would come
Yeah,
in.
yeah, I
Yeah,
understand that, but that surrender piece into the earth that you're always supported, which you talked about in the last episode, that to me was such a big aha to let myself be held, that then I can be held through the growth phase of the wood element and ride on that energy of it rather than trying to control it. And
yes,
and so, we have the support and control cycle, but it's more of
exactly.
is it a control or is it a balancing cycle or a
Yeah,
harmonization?
I mean, that's brought up a really important point, because the earth is the mother of the metals, so
Yeah,
therefore you can't
yeah,
let go unless you feel supported, you feel you've got to do it, or you feel like you've got to control everything. So that's the thing in
yeah.
our culture, where we've been like a lone show, one man show, and we haven't necessarily perhaps supported by our families, but in the greater society we haven't really found that. Coming back to that support of Mother Earth, knowing that we are nourished, knowing that we are nurtured, so we can let go and then move into that trust and flow of the water element. So it's how they're all feeding into each other, but of course you get that little facet, of each
You do.
within
And
each element.
there's I love that. And what also came up for me when you said about control, is we're not in control. I think, but we do have responsibility. And I think, what are you responsible for? Taking care of this sacred vehicle, otherwise known as your body, being responsible for the things that you've said that you're going to be responsible for.
Yeah,
But within that responsibility can be a surrender to how that actually evolves and sort of blossoms forth. There's almost no, what's the control on that responsibility? You said, I'm going to be clear about, I'm going to be responsible to look after myself or my family or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And then around that, you can tune into the elements to support you as to how that responsibility is actually going to
So
express
you're
itself.
talking about the relationship between the earth element and the metal element there. So the responsibility would come in via the earth element. So the earth
Mm.
element is that, and we didn't have a falling out. We had a difference of
We
opinion,
had a
but the earth element is about that worry. Like whereas the metal that we're talking about today is grief, worry is the
yeah,
earth element. So it's worrying about, I'm going to go out there and do things in the world, that take that responsibility, and it's a worry energy. When it's turned inwards, it's that integrity to look after ourselves and look after, it's transformed into
yes,
that self responsibility. I'm going to look after myself,
yes,
I'm worth taking care of, all that stuff. So then when it moves into the letting go, it's like part of that dance between the responsibility and it's like, actually, that's not looking after myself. I'm going to let this go, I'm going to let this go, I'm going to let this go.
Too
So
much.
it's again, it's that beautiful synergy between the two elements there
It
of
is in this.
we can't be responsible for everything, can we? We
No,
can't
we
we
don't.
can't
That's not the
change the
point.
world. I mean, we
No.
can't be like, it's like that what do you call it, complex, savior complex, if we're going to be the ones that take on the whole world. It's an
No,
interesting.
I'm just going to come in from a left field here. Anybody watch Travelers on Netflix? They're futuristic souls that come in to help save the world right now, and they have various protocols. And their protocol five is: if you don't know what else to do, take care of this host body. It's the most important
Yay.
thing you can do. But because without this body, you're not going to be able to fulfill any of your missions. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good thing for us to look at now. What actually is it
Yeah.
you really need to self-care? Because you can have all the ideas in the world, but if you don't have the energy or the alignment or the focus, it's all just going to be pie in the sky stuff, and it's a wasted energy. So that's just my sixpenny worth in of like, if you're going to bother,
Yay.
really do it.
So,
Really take
I mean,
care of
this
yourself.
that's beautiful in terms of, using this time of year, because this is when it is a good time of year to find clarity, to find focus, and let go of everything that's outside of that. So we
Yeah.
can really utilize this time of year to do that. And it can
So
also be it's funny, isn't it? Because it's a letting go, but it can also be a harvest time, with the seeds that you
I was
planted
just
in
going
the
to say
spring.
that. Yeah. After the because the harvest time of the earth is gathering all the bounty, gathering
Yeah,
it in, and when we come into the metal element, we're starting to make the kilner jars of tomatoes that are going to keep us through the winter. We're honing into the treasure, the bounty of the earth,
yeah,
and it's coming into that. What am I going to take with me to sustain me over the winter months?
yeah,
Which aspects have I learned this year? What am I going to polish my diamond? And this is why I'd like to do this La Chi movement around coming into more focus and clarity, with this idea of like extending boundaries, which we've not talked very much about. But for me, this boundary aspect of the metal element was absolutely massive. And I don't know about you listening or watching, but what does the word boundaries conjure up for you? And I'm just like, yeah, but I don't want to be absolutely fixed about the boundary, because I don't know whether I don't have a solid wall and not have anybody be able to come in. And then it kind of dropped in about, you can have an energy field around you. And this is part of my sphere of meditation, which you're very welcome to go to my website, just to build this layer around you. Maybe you already do something similar already. And this is a real nugget for you. This is a bit of giveaway that I'm really happy to share, because it helps with how to manage your boundaries and how to visualize your boundaries. Is that I see them like as a shimmering layer of gold or silver, or high frequency energy, but it's semi permeable. It's not going to let in the energies that don't vibe with you. They will just drop away, or they won't even be interested. But energies that are similar frequency to you, you're going to be happy to dance and weave with them. So they're able to come in. So I love that idea of the semi-permeable membrane. What do you think, Sarah?
yeah. It's just about that we don't want to, we need to, I mean, if we're looking at it through the metal element that is associated to that is the skin.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
it's
the
how we
way
meet the
G.
world, it's where
Yes.
how we meet the world, the layer of the skin, and if you look at the skin, it is semi-permeable, isn't it?
Yes. I
So
love it.
yeah.
Yes. And
So I
that's
mean, I just
reminding
wanted
me.
to bring in as well, the importance of looking after our lungs this time of year, because the organ that is associated with the metal element is the lungs. And it can be a big time where we get a buildup of phlegm, and
Right.
that is when the lungs are trying to clear the excess mucus, out of the body. So we want to try, and lungs actually have a tendency to get too dry, so it's just keeping that balance during the
Mm,
winter, as we
mm,
move into the winter. So looking after our lungs,
yeah.
because we want to, if you look at the lungs, they are how we breathe in, not just air, but also chi, life force, and also, new possibilities. We're going to breathe it in. That's, it's kind of like an ability not just to let go, but also to receive. So it's that
Be
balance point
inspired.
between breathing in and breathing out, between giving and receiving in a way, or letting go and receiving.
Being inspired. I love that the inhalation is also inspiration. It's like, hello.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And that word in spiritus. But I mean, the lungs is a massive topic, and you know that I also like to look at the air element separately from the metal. I think we talked about that in a previous podcast.
Yes, yes.
But I love that we come round to revisit the lungs in the autumn, because you're right, they are the interface between us and the world. And when the air changes and we go inside more, there has to be an adjustment there. So what we're doing down to the little finger, the thumb. That's our lung line. You can pat down there. You can sweep down there. You can massage into the wind palace if you want. You can help the lung chi continue to move, because it will adjust. It can adjust. It adjusts all the time with the breath. So it's about not shocking it, not suddenly going into cold air or suddenly coming into hot from cold. It's that respect and responsibility of how we take care of our lungs, because they are, as you say, the interface, and they're extension of into the skin as well. So all those places where you kind of feel that you have a relationship with the outside world and the air element. There's the air and the metal element. We knew it was going to come in. But
Oh,
also, should we just mention Wei Chi? Because those of you that do Qigong practice will be going, what about the Wei Chi, Clara and Sarah?
it's interesting.
Yes.
I skirted over your boundaries thing, because for me the boundaries come in with the wood element, and I thought I'm not going to get into another thing with Clara. But the Wei Chi is ruled by the liver, gallbladder are the main, but also the lungs. So that, I think, again, I suspect there's another of
Harmonization.
these kind of over boundaries, or another of these overlapping kind of
Yes,
areas.
exactly. So it's going to be different in the
Yeah.
springtime. The boundaries in the springtime are different from the boundaries in the
And it's
autumn.
interesting, because if you look
Yes.
at the Wei Chi, that protective energy that surrounds us, you think of it in terms of, all the skin, but it's actually all our internal passages as well. So the lungs are actually coating of the Wei Chi is actually coating them. So then you do have that boundary piece coming so close in to the metal element. So I don't entirely disagree with you,
No, it's a
as we did in the
conversation.
last time, where I don't think we could find peace. There's, for me, there's much more I can see, but for me the boundaries would come in the wood element a lot more. So
Well, so let's see. And if anybody's got any comments, do
yeah,
please
we'd
let
love
us
to
know what you
hear.
think. Because this is a
Yeah,
conversation, and I always learn when I hang out with Sarah. We bounce ideas around. That's what this is about. Although we might have been studying this for years, I always feel like a beginner. I have a beginner's mind, and I have that
absolutely.
interest there.
Yeah.
But I will also say about the Wei Chi. That is produced towards the end of your chi practice, isn't it? It's something that builds up in your system and it comes out to the skin, and you can tap it and you can encourage it. And that's why often at the end of qigong you will do some sort of stimulation on the outside of the body
And what's
boundary to
really
bring the Wei Chi up.
interesting, what's really interesting with the work that I do, the Chinese medicine work that I do, is often I'll send more resources into the Wei Chi, so that people, because, if people are taking on too much, different climates, taking in too much damp, taking into other
Mm-hmm.
people's emotions, whatever it is, it could be EMFs, that they need
Yeah.
to strengthen their Wei Chi. But sometimes you can't go there, because in order to have strong Wei Chi, you need to have strong Chi.
Yeah,
You
exactly. You
can't
need to
build it
build
from
it.
nowhere. You
You
can't
have
manifest it from nowhere.
exactly.
So you have to build your Chi, and then you can
You
build your
do.
Wei Chi.
That's why it comes
So
towards the end of a practice, and
yeah,
nurturing the Wei Qi is really helpful with your immune system, and yeah, so like tapping the thymus is always really good for that. Anyway, but should we do this little practice? So this is part of primordial qigong form, and it's something that is also when I was running the Wan Chi crew with my friend John Miller. He from the Qigong Academy now. He is collaborating with. He would go. So it's this idea of with the breath, moving with the breath, with the just moving the hands. Just having a little practice here. Breathing in, opening, breathing out, and bring the hands together. And when you breathe in and open, you feel that energy expand, and then when you breathe out and bring them together, you're aware of the connection between the palms more. And this helps to develop and hone your relationship with your chi. And I didn't know that this was called La Chi. Expansion and condensing. So that in itself is a beautiful thing to do in front of any of your chakras. If you place it up now in front of your third eye, this is the primordial Qigong bit, and you focus inside your eternal spirit cave, and you see like a globe of diamond light that's just suspended there in your cave. And you imagine a similar one between your hands. Now when you breathe in and open your hands, the energy spheres expand. And as you breathe out and bring the hands together, they condense. So expanding as you breathe in. And condensing, getting brighter, lighter, more. One more time. Breathing in, expanding. And breathing out, centering. Now you're centered into the center of your mind. Here is a really beautiful focus point. And then just bring your hands down that center line and bring them into the crossed hand position at the lower dantian. And just stay in this stillness place for a couple of breaths into your focus space. You can always bring in an affirmation of, I am calm and relaxed. And just notice how that makes you feel now. As we come towards the end of our podcast here and the end of the series that we have created for you over this last year. I'll travel around the seasons and landing in this still point, this place of power. I'm just going to play the crystal bowl just briefly to consolidate this feeling for you now. And this place here together, knowing that we are powerful beings here on soul purpose to gather, to bring more high vibration frequency to the earth, so that we may all live in peace and love and joy, kindness, compassion, and that we can truly birth the new earth together. And thank you, Sarah, for all that you do to bring that vision to light. It's been an honor and a joy to be in this series with you, and looking forward to what we get up to next.
Oh, thank you, Chi Sister. It's been amazing. And we're learning so much together, aren't we? So super excited to see what we co-create next year, because I know we've got lots of lots of bubblings happening. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening in. We hope you've enjoyed the series. If you missed any of the elements, you can start at the beginning. As we move into the water element, you can actually start working your way through until we come back with the next piece in the new year. So many blessings.
Many
Bye for
blessings.
now.
Thank you all for listening and watching. See you soon. Keep your chi up.